To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day. Yeah, yeah. Everything you need to know that you never knew, that you need to know. Like our perspective.
Hello and welcome. I am very excited to have you here today. And I was going to go into this long rant about what you mean to me and how I found you and how you helped me and all the background noise that I'm making. But I want to say it publicly. Here's what I want to say. Hold on. Let me fix this sound on this side over yonder.
Well, I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here.
And we were going to do a little. We were going to do a little banter.
Go ahead. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, good. I can hear you too.
I got to learn how to keep my lights from flaring up. Someone needs to tell me. If I move around, it gets a little. It like maybe it's just enlightenment. I don't know.
But it gets hot.
Gets a little hot. I'm so happy to be here. We were going to do a little back and forth, but I was like, let's save it for this show. You know what I mean? Let's just do it and let's just see, and we just go with it.
Yes, you did.
And I tried to blow the shofar. They didn't catch that part. I tried to blow the shofar.
Oh, where's the shofar?
Well, want me to grab it? I'll grab it. Yeah, I'll grab it.
Yeah, grab that. Y'all know we need the shofar. Y'all know we got to stop. We got to start it off with the shofar.
Oh, no. I'm really bad at this. I'm not good at blowing though. But it's become like it's become in my house.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like when they hear that horn, they know don't come up. I'm taping. So it's become like a thing. So when I said, hang on, I got to blow the horn. You probably thought I was talking about like something
horn.
like
that.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
But it was always this because I always want to do the right thing, So yeah, I'm not great at blowing it. I'll try.
Come on, do your thing. We with you.
Oh God, I don't know how to do it that well. It's really sad.
It's okay.
Really I'm going to lose all credibility. I'm going to lose all credibility. This was the... All right, hang on. I mean, I kind of got it.
It's okay. It's all right. As long as you keep blowing it at the appropriate time.
Right.
All right.
And the kids know. Good. The kids know they can hear downstairs.
It ain't got to be perfect. As long as you understand that there's an appropriate time and you just get down there and you do your thing, you're going to be all right.
Sound
you're going to be okay. You're going to be all right.
All right.
Jacob, I know that you do not like people bragging on you. I know that. I know that. But I would be remiss if I did not say what I got to tell you. And that is that several years ago when I started seeking the truth, about maybe 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, you were one of the first people that I was sent to by the Father on YouTube. And it just relieved me. And I was relieved because prior to finding you, especially after being raised in church and after all this other stuff, prior to finding you, I thought I was
not going to cry.
Nobody else could get what I was trying to share. Nobody else could understand what I was seeing. And I found you, and believe it or not, it was a Mandela video, and you were walking outside. It's like you had on your shirt, I think, maybe a shirt and tie or something.
Right.
But you were walking outside, maybe going into a building or something like that.
Yeah.
And I happened upon you at that moment. And I'm going to tell you, I have hung with you ever since because it resonated with me. It was like the Father was telling me, you're not crazy. Pay attention. Look around. Everything that I've been showing you is accurate. You're not crazy.
Yeah.
Because what happens in your family is you get people that discount you.
Sure.
Tell me, has that ever happened to you? Where you get people around you that sort of discount you because you are usually very in tune to the Father. He gives you dreams and visions.
Sure. Yeah.
How does that make those around you feel? Originally, how did they feel? And now, what do they think?
I've never fit in, it's one of these things where I've always, I had people that liked me and everything else, but there was something about me that just, I guess, just always rubbed somebody the wrong way. So it was easy that, it was easy when I started, getting into television for people to, really think, oh, he doesn't deserve it, or and it just, no matter what I did, was always somebody there that wanted to kind of drag me down. I've always been looked upon as a little kooky, a little crazy, you know. Yeah, I mean, with my wife's family, when I met them, because at the time I was the head writer for the largest Christian television network in the world, and I didn't even believe what they believed. It's just weird how God placed me there, you know. But because I worked there and because I was a writer, I was like a shepherd, kind of like Jacob used to be a shepherd for Laban. He fed the flock and everything else until God gave him his own flock, and he didn't need to do that anymore. That's kind of like my story, same thing. And so doing that, there's always been and of course, I don't really fit in anywhere. So it's like if you look at the niche audiences of where we are exactly, you'll have a lot of people that know who I am, a lot of people that probably watch my videos, and I'm a decent guy with a good heart. Not a hateful person. I don't think I'm great or anything else, but I won't be acknowledged. And I think the reason I'm not acknowledged as much, and I'm acknowledged by many. Look, I mean, I'm on your show, right? And I've loved you and known you and been encouraged by you for so long, because it's like we're all here for each other. God always places, confirmers along the way. And I knew, like as the Jacob in the Bible, he was meant to be a breaker, that the ground had gotten so hard and he was meant to, smash up the ground. And I knew that was kind of my job, was to just kind of like prepare the way, kind of like John. Oh, look at this. I'm a witness. That's a merchant, but like John was a witness. I'm a witness of God. And they're always looked upon as a little goofy. And if you really are serving God, most people aren't today. And that doesn't mean that, they still don't go to church and consider themselves to be servants of God. But, they're not going to like someone that reminds them of their ungodliness, right? So, if I have YouTubers that are gonna, we'll say, call someone something really bad that they shouldn't call them. I can't even say it. But it would be really horrible. But they would say these things not knowing if it were true. They would say it just to say it, and I wouldn't do that. So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not like everybody else, and that makes me a little bit different. And so people have always been kind of that way to me, because I always got ahead. It was like no matter what I did, I would always rise to the top. Like I was the head writer for World Wrestling. They made fun of me there, right? And then when I left there, I told everybody, oh, God will give me something else, and I had my own show, right? And where I was in charge, called Thunderbox. And still, was never any credibility to anything that I said. I always said it was God, or always like, yeah, you're crazy. And then it was like, oh, well, I'm going to one day with YouTube, I left everything and I went and I sold mattresses because I was helping people get rest and support. I love the allegory of that. And I knew back then that one day God would bring me to where I am right now. I knew it, but yet still, he's a weirdo. I don't believe a word of what he says, So I've gotten to a point now in my life where I'm grateful for, everyone that's around me and everyone that, cares. Like this morning, I wrote a poem. I'm sorry, I'm going on tangents here. I wrote a poem because I was just upset because you see, I'm doing this show on the Liver King right now, which is just kind of silly, but he lied to everybody and said that, he got that physique from, just eating, testicles and hearts and livers. And so people bought into it and they ate testicles and hearts and livers, but he was lying the whole time. He was doing a lot of steroids, but that's the way the world is today. Liars usually don't like the company of people that aren't lying. So, so this morning I was kind of a little down in the dumps. So I wrote this. I'm into the Twitter. I do Twitter poetry now.
Oh yeah, please read it. I love your poems.
But it was one of those things where, my son and I were talking. I was going to the gym, and we were talking, and because I've been at this grind a long time, and I don't want to complain, but I wish that more people would hear my voice. I wish I could just somehow encourage more people. Not that, I mean, look at the amount of people. I'm almost at 200,000 subscribers. Years ago, just 3-4 years ago, I've been on here since 2008. I knew it would happen one day. I told everybody. I did a video for my speckled sheep into the future. And then here they are. But yet, not many people really believe in God. They really don't believe in that. And someone that really does have that kind of passion, I think it makes people uncomfortable, which is why your family was like that. But we're not of the world, right? So broad is the way to destruction, but narrow is that path. It's to be loving, to be kind. This is to be strong, but that's not perceived as strength. Elon just tweeted out something, because the joke on my channel is that he's watching somehow, right? And I prayed on the show years ago. I want them to watch. I pray that I can influence world leaders, because that's what God does. God takes little goofy people that sell mattresses and puts them in front of Pharaoh, and then gets that signet ring, and then becomes instrumental in changing the world and making the world a better place. So I believe it's possible. That kind of faith is not really rewarded today. That kind of faith is seen as being goofy today. And so I've continued to kind of just speak from my heart, speak from, my prayer, and seeing where it's going to go, whether it goes there or not. And when it goes there, then I say, hey, look, everybody, just like in my book, I have 2022 in my novel, just like I did. So, hey, look, everybody, there is a God, there is more. And what if we are being influential? Elon tweeted out, he said, I used to think that turning the other cheek was weakness. And he said that he was ashamed of it now, and that now he sees the wisdom and the true strength of it. He boldly proclaimed on his platform that turning the other cheek, he used to think was weakness. And I believe he probably thought that, because you know why? Because there aren't many people that turn the other cheek. You get the religious turning of the other cheek, right? We forgive you, but we're still going to talk bad about you behind your back, and we're not going to let you into our, organization, or, he hasn't seen that kind of love, but that's the kind of love that we need today. We need someone who's strong enough to let God avenge. But so anyway, I was down in the dumps, and I wrote, if I were to now this is just gym poetry. This is me doing cardio and just writing a short little Twitter poem. I like to write. If I were to curse and never admit when I was wrong, I'd have a list of followers a mile long. If I were to mock, shame, and tear down, it seems I'd be the most well-known around. For me, it'd be easy to be sleazy if not for if not for the heart that God gave. So I thank you, God, for helping me on Twitter to behave. Because it would be so easy for me. I'm a great writer, and I have zingers. When I see people, I have zingers that I know would get a lot of people like, yeah, and they'll retweet it. But I know that zinger is not rooted in love. So it's so much harder to be impactful and attractive, because today people, they don't know what love looks like. They don't know what compassion and kindness looks like. They think it's weakness. But here you got the most powerful man in the world, all of a sudden out of the blue. So maybe he is watching, who knows? So I'm glad we're here.
You mentioned, giving that, that quicker, snappy comeback, right? And I find that I will give snappy comebacks when I've not had a lot of rest. The old man, human, will zap up. And I tell you what, it's not a nice picture. And I'll have to run back, go back into Twitter, take out what I said. Go back to the comments. Not bad, Felicia, bad. That wasn't nice. When I'm rested and I'm, maybe I've fasted and I've interceded for others and I prayed for myself, then I notice I have more strength to really, really turn the other cheek. Do you feel that is something that you have to practice over time? I feel like
yes. I mean, it's absolutely. It's not like see, that's the thing, is religion taught everybody wrong. The religion said, just say these magic words, come get baptized the way I say, come, give your amount of money to the church, do what we're supposed to do. You do all these things. You have your checklist. You follow our law. You're going to be good, right? They think that that's it. You're done. They think that that's, you can continue on, that you're somehow okay. And that's, unfortunately, that's a lie to keep everybody miserable, because you can't be happy if you don't love, truly. Can't have love if you don't love, truly. And not many people, have love, truly. And so how do you do this? Well, God will form you, and shape you. And I believe that the world is set up in a way that we can't fail. That's the good news, the gospel. You can't fail. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess to Christ as Lord, everyone. And then the next line is, some people will teach that it's like, yeah, they'll do that, but then it's off to be burned and tortured endlessly. This is the God of this world, and that's not what the scripture says. The God I know, to the glory of the Father. The glory of the Father. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Christ is Lord, to the glory of God, to glorify God. God, whose arm is not slack that it cannot save. God, who purposed everyone, times and seasons. God, who said, if I say it, who can disavow it? No one, because I am the Lord God. I create good. I create chaos. Another word for that is evil, good and evil. I create darkness. I create light. I, the Lord, do these things. And why? Well, because God corrects us. If we get off, and this is why it's not eye for an eye. Like, you're celebrated today if you have, we'll say like a very important, powerful weapon, right? That you can take to an event to keep people from looting. You're being celebrated, and people call that Christian. I am a very small voice in the whole, you're not supposed to do that stuff category. Like, I still do these videos. I know these videos are not going to attract new viewers. I know that I'm going to lose people, but sometimes I got to shake the tree to get rid of those that are, if you're not part of the vine, you got to get going. And I know that God will use them, because we were given, the scriptures say that we were given enlightenment, right? Jesus said to his disciples, unto you is given the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. So you get the mystery. The kingdom of heaven is righteousness, peace, and joy. The mystery of how to obtain this and how to live this in your life. You were given this mystery to understand it. But to those that are without that understanding, those that don't know any better, all things are done in parable. So the story, what I do on my channel, is I take the world events that I see, and I see the spiritual message, and I bring it to light. That's why I'm doing something on the Liver King right now. The liver is the part of the body that purifies everything, right? So there's a spiritual message to everything. Those that seek, the scriptures say, will find. This is a very exciting time to be alive. And sadly, most people are very, very miserable. And so I'm in a category where you got to take the harder road if you want to do the right thing. To do the right thing is not easy, and it's not celebrated today, but I believe more and more and more people are. So, I am grateful that I'm where I am. I wish I could reach more, but in timing, because God has set this up. Felicia, we can't lose. We can't lose because it's set up that way. It's almost like, imagine there's one way to go. On the right side, you're going to be burned. If you walk off course, you're going to hot stove. The other side, you're going to get shocked. Oh, I shouldn't have put my finger in the socket. And the trick is to get on that narrow path. But this is broad, and you may be able to get in, not get burnt real bad in the beginning, but you're going to get burnt. And the only way that you're going to get back on track is to get out of what's burning you and to get back on the path. I believe that God has set it up so that happens. The reason we see a correction coming to the world is because people are so corrupt, and now that corruption is being revealed. As I prayed that it would be years ago, if they be corrupt. Years ago, did a video, where I shouted it out loud. I said, Lord, let them see how wicked they are if they be corrupt. And then here we're hearing of all these stories, All of this stuff's unfolding in like just a miraculous and prophetic way. But I'm not like a prophet, right? I don't come on here. Look at me. I was like, this is the way I dress. If I wanted to be taken seriously, I probably could have dressed more like a pastor. I could talk more like a pastor. I don't have to use a fart gun or a megaphone or puppets. I like using because I have 4 children. I could.
Let me interject here because I'm the same way. For years being in the executive world, I had to dress all stuffy, and it looked like the suits were so tight that I had pterodactyl arms. You know what I mean? And you could take me fishing, and I'd be relaxed in what I wore. That's
Right.
what I decided. I'm
Gotta
just
be
gonna
you.
be me. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like just be who you are. Just be, and that makes you a lot more relatable, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's hard to be relatable when people just don't. What are you doing here? I'm just hanging out. You see what I mean? Like who's going to think that I got some answers if I'm talking to you on Felicia's show? What does it matter what they think? What does it matter?
Absolutely. You know what I want
I
to
got
ask you? 'Cause
children. I got
love
4
your
children.
personality and I love your quirkiness. Tell me about because it's like I love to hear the road of how people got where they are. Tell me about the 12-year-old Jacob. What was he doing
Oh,
at 12?
yeah, that's interesting because my novel, the lead character Thomas James, is 12 years old. That was really the time when I think that I really kind of will say. I mean, I always wanted to know God, but I think that was the time when that was when I got like started reading the Bible, and I remember my mother thinking I was in some weird cult, and at 15. Okay, so how the story starts is my mother's a young mom. She's 18 when she gets pregnant, has to drop out of high school. My father took off, left me in a project, and then we moved in with my nanny, my pop, who got like their housing was my grandfather is in the war, and back then they wanted to take care of people, so they got these. It was just nice. And now my pop's still here. My nanny passed when she was in her 60s. She was so close to me. She was everything to me. But so I started off, didn't really have a father, and I think that a lot of people that God purposes, and I think almost like he's like, you can't have a father in this world. It was almost like, for what I got planned for you, you got to turn to me. So I've always, I long, because I love my children, and I think I'm a really great dad. I mean, I really do. I really love my children, and I'm there for them. And they know that I love them. I never had that. And that's, and I still try to figure out how to be a dad. There are things that I don't know how to do. But there are other things that I do. So it started off there, and this desire. I was very poor, and I was around a bunch of people that I grew up very poor in a very wealthy neighborhood. So I went to the boys club where they had every Tuesday and Thursday they had skinny dipping with the adults. It's weird, right? They don't do that anymore, I don't think. But that was like the thing. You'd go to the beach, and then you'd come back, and you go and you swim with grown men. It was weird. So, I mean, poor kids are always kind of taking advantage. My mother, very hard worker. She worked hard, 2 jobs, still to this day, works her fingers to the bone. But I always felt like that. I used to go to church by myself. I used to go down the street to St. Rock's, and I'd sit there, and I'd envision God using me. I believed that perhaps God had a plan for me. And I'd have these things where I would tune out the priest, but I just liked the sense of being in the church, and I'd be reading the Bible. And I mean, you're a young kid, 10 years old, 9 years old, and you're walking to the church then, because back then, I walked everywhere. It was a different time. From there, I ended up at 15 getting a full-time position at a deli called Double Decker Deli. And there was a cook who was the chef. His name was Colin. And he was, you could say, like a born again Pentecostal, whatever, but he really opened my eyes up to, more the spiritual side of things. He was still, I mean, if we were to talk now, we probably have very different beliefs, but he was kind of instrumental at that point of getting me into more of, wow, there's a much bigger picture here. And so I've continued to follow after that. And I started to see things, there's a scripture that says, as a man thinketh, he becomes. I started to see my life in the future and I envision it. And I think that that's a great technique that people should use today is you got to sit, you got to imagine where you're going to be, where you're going. There's a desire that's in your heart. And if it's a desire to do good, to help others, God placed it there and he gave you that desire for a reason and it'll be fulfilled. So if you understand that, you'll end up one day being able to do what you love and want to do. Like myself, like you. So that growing up in that wealthy town was interesting. Going to the boys club was interesting because that was connected to Shane McMahon. They kind of, I was like the nice kid, but I got beat up at the high school party, and so people kind of knew me, but I wasn't exactly popular. I was kind of like one of the guys that would be hanging out with the skaters and punks, and me with my secondhand, Izod shirts. I didn't really fit in anywhere, never have. So, but my faith was always there. And so I ended up becoming friends with somebody. I ended up writing a movie. I went to college and I reinvented myself. I got a scholarship for acting. And I just decided at that point, because of my faith, I'm like, who's to say I can't direct plays? Who's to say I can't write plays? Who's to say? So I just started living my life, all wanting to honor God. 11:11, which is on my clock back there, is on, back in the day was always a thing for me too. So I always kind of place 11:11 in all my work somewhere, my novel and other things. I end up, this is a long story.
Take your time.
I end up in college and, where in high school, I couldn't do the acting thing because I didn't fit or whatever. I ended up becoming like the top guy in my university where I was an actor. And I created a directing track that's still to this day there. I didn't really create it, but I was the guy that kind of broke the ground. I was the guy that kind of started it up. And I remember my professor, who, by the way, has been discredited, and he's no longer a professor because he did some bad stuff with students, who always had kind of an issue with me. And I was playing Oberon in Midsummer Night's Dream. And it was like my senior project. And, I ended up with a theater major. I put myself through school. My mom, she did her best to help and everything else. My stepfather, we never really had a great relationship, but, it is what it is. I'm very grateful for everything in my life. I end up, he tells me, you're not going to leave here and make it. And I said, not only will I make it, because I was young, I said, I'm going to write a movie and call you up and you're going to be in it. And I said that to him. I proclaimed that. 1 year from that moment, he played a part in the very first screenplay that I ever wrote, that a guy who went to high school with me, that somehow, God brought us together and we ended up kind of becoming friends, and he knew I was a writer and he wanted to do a movie. And so I wrote the script and we needed somebody to play a parole officer. So he ended up coming down. So from there, I really started to seem like, wow, God's hand in my life. So I started just saying, yeah, next, I knew about wrestling. I always felt like I was going to work for wrestling. I didn't know how, but I end up, I'm selling stuff at a store. By the way, I sold Ivanka Trump a pillow. True story. Yeah, when she was young.
You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, no, it gets better. So I worked on Greenwich Avenue at a place called Relax the Back, which is probably still there.
I know of that company, the Relax the Back store or something like that.
Yeah. It's I like helping people. Anything that's going to help people support wise is a good thing. Rest wise is the even better thing. So I worked, Shane McMahon came in and I was doing the movie in town. So maybe I was in a newspaper, whatever, but I knew Shane from the boys club. And I said, hey, do you do writers? I'm doing a movie right now. I was trying to be all cool. Like, do you have writers on? And he said, yeah, of course, you should send it in. So I started sending in these scripts. Next thing you know, I see these scripts on air. Turns out the guys that were running the show were just using my ideas and leaving me in the lurch. So I knew God was going to move on my behalf. I knew I was going to end up in wrestling. I told everybody this. I didn't know how. I wasn't even a wrestling fan really at the time. I became one when I was writing there because all these stories. I end up going away on a cruise, and I just kind of like left it in God's hands. Turns out the guys that were using my material, who interviewed me, by the way, who are on YouTube on this and know of me, and we've, but we won't go there. They ended up going to work for the competition. So there was this vacuum. And I happened upon Shane the night before this happened at a sushi restaurant with my wife. And we talked. And so I was on his mind. That happened. I got a call. Next thing you know, I'm the head writer for World Wrestling Federation. Now, here's what's weird. We were getting beat at the time by WCW. We were getting beat in the ratings, and Vince was furious. And the writing staff, they left. I came in, and there were just a couple other people there. Like, very weird, because here I read the Bible on the plane, on Vince's plane. Everybody thought that I was strange. I didn't quite fit. There, but God placed me in this place where I started writing things like Fight the Good Fight of Faith. I created an entire group of individuals that single-handedly got rid of excessive violence, vulgarity, jello matches and underwear matches and everything else. Kind of on the down low, I was trying to Vince had this idea to kind of make fun of an organization that was giving them a hard time at the time. And I took it and ran with it. I took the porn star, Val Venus. I turned him into a man in a relationship. I took the pimp, the Godfather. I turned him into the good father. All of these things that, like, God, who am I? Nobody. But there I am, right in the middle, right? Writing these things. I actually was there when I produced Trump twice. I mean, I was in his presence twice. I produced him once. I was there when Trump was covered in blood by a wrestler who's a vampire at a house show. It was very strange because I always felt like God had placed me in all these moments. Like, could you imagine reading the Bible as a young kid on the plane of Vince McMahon? You got Stephanie, you got Hunter, you got all these people, and you're reading the Bible and they're making fun of me. The joke was always like, what are you listening to? Kenny Loggins or Kenny Rogers? I don't know. That was like a joke that Vince loved. I enjoyed my time there. Don't get me wrong. It was weird, but I always knew God had me there. So then it was like, okay, what are you going to do next, Lord? So then I left there. I had gotten to a point where my son was born, and I just knew it was time to go. And then I became the head writer for Christian TV, the head writer. Now, how does this happen? A guy who, never wrote for any of that stuff. Just so happens that Marcus, who was the owner of the network, who's passed away, poor family, he was a huge wrestling fan. So here now, this guy ends up becoming the head writer for the largest Christian television network in the world. It's like, how does that happen? It's very strange. God moves in mysterious ways. And now here I am here. So it's like, it's never been me that's done it. It's always been like all of these things had to come together for that to happen. It's very strange. God is good,
Exactly. I wanted to ask you because you were right on point. And I'm pulling something out of the way here. Hold on just a second. I wanted to ask you, you were right on point with the whole Trump thing. And when you mentioned before that you remember the part that was written with him covered in blood and all of that.
Well, it wasn't written. It just happened. It was
It just happened. It just happened.
It was like, and it turned out Vince was really just messing with him, supposedly. But it seems
when they threw it on him or threw it on the wife or the girlfriend or somebody. I remember that vaguely. But I also remember, I think this is what I really want to ask about. You, in this time frame, in the 2020s, you spoke about something referencing that point.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Because I remember that.
Referencing what point?
The point where he was, where the blood issue was going on. There was something going on.
I mean, it's, I had a weird dream about when he was still president and he was, everybody was about to vote again. I had a weird dream that I was carrying him in a coffin and he was dead and I was confused, but on the left-hand side, he was laughing and he was dancing. And when I woke up, I felt like either they were going to like fake his death or like politically he would lose everything, but he was in on it and it was all a big scam. So I did a couple of shows after that saying that possibly this could happen. It's a story of Nebuchadnezzar, where, he thought he was so great and then God struck him down. So here's the thing. I hope that he can, God can use anybody. I mean, I hope the things that I feel, because I really don't share exactly how I feel. I hope that I'm wrong on some things, and because I wouldn't know to be right. See, that's the thing, is that just because you have a feeling about something and you know something in your spirit, doesn't necessarily mean it could be the truth. What does Hamlet say? He says, that the specter, is could be a devil lying to me, as he is potent with such spirits to trick me, to deceive me. So it's like, what do I have to do? Well, the play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. It's kind of like, well, so what I'll do is I'll just kind of like, I'll observe and I'll see how the king acts. I'll sit back and I'll see because, I could be wrong. Who's to say that God isn't going to work? But it's, there's a judgment that's on this land. I really do feel it. And I don't think that I think people are going to put their faith in a savior that is a man. And I think that that's going to be maybe good for some, but not so great for those that are, loving and, not down with tyranny,
So, but I think that that's part and parcel of the issue, is that we do, as human beings, have the propensity to lean toward another person because we don't want to put the onus of the responsibility on ourselves to really honestly go beyond what our eyes can see. And I think that it's easier for a lot of people to say, well, I'll just trust. And I know, listen, I'm going to be honest, it's not something that I've hid. I have not hidden the fact that, I was one of those people who was riding the soapbox for Mr. Naranga, Mr. Orange Man. I was on the soapbox for him,
and I probably never condemned you. I probably never told you were wrong.
Well,
because I could always be wrong, right?
But I'm going to say this. I'm so glad that it was 2016 when I was riding real hard, riding hard. And then the night that he got elected, I heard this voice. I say that it's the Ruach that was talking. Nothing has changed. This has just given you guys time. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. This is just giving you guys time. It's just giving you some time. So the time to get whatever you needed to get in order, time to stack your chips, time to, do whatever you had to do. It was the time for you to do what you need to do, but we needed to be alert from that point forward. The reason why I say that is because that very night, all while they were going back and forth and showing some of the people in the background, showing some of his family, taking pictures and panning the camera to the right and left, I was seeing different signs and literal symbols that gave me pause. And see, I'm going to say this because we were talking last night about relationships, and oftentimes we will put our trust in this man or this woman, and we will think that things are going to be okay, and we overlook signs and symbols.
Yeah.
I just think that as a human, we overlook them, or we elect not to focus and dig a little deeper. And when I saw those signs and symbols, I started to get real quiet and I started to go, And after that, I began to start to, talk to the father. I'm like, okay, now what's really going on? And over time, I began to see things deteriorate, and more things become true, or rhema, word down in my gut, that what I saw that night was absolutely the truth. Now, here's why I think it happened for me the way that it did. Because you remember I said when I first found you 15, 16, I was seeking truth, and I don't want anything else to cover my eyes or shroud them. I wanted to be completely open to understand. I think that it happened to show me that in as much as I was a very conservative person, because my family raised me that way, and that's just who I am, right? That I did not have to follow a person to still be a conservative individual in my way of thinking and in my life. I don't have to be I don't have to follow these people.
Well,
But
God
that
doesn't want.
is why I say
Yeah.
I think that there are a lot of individuals right now that are still caught up in that trick bag. And that's the sad part. And that's the part that concerns me. Let me ask you something. Um, you never ever ride for a political party. I've never seen you personally. I've never seen you do it. I've seen you be very, very professional and very neutral. Um, do you think, and I'm going to ask you this question because you are neutral, do you think that is an issue with the body of believers who say that we follow the Father, that we would elect to put this person up on high as opposed to just trust him that we can't see?
I mean, I was going to say, Moses, he told everybody, look, God wants to listen to you, wants to talk to you, go up to the mountain, right? But they didn't want to go. Nobody wants to go to God they want to give us a king. He's like, all right, I'll give you a king. He's going to make you work hard. He's going to take your wages. He's going to make, do meaningless things. He's going to be a tyrant over you. That's what you want. That's what you want. That's what you're going to get. And so everybody's getting what they want. That's all. So I really can't, I mean, I always have hope for things, but it just seems like I feel like we're at the part of the story where, this is right at the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire type of a deal. Elon bringing that sink in was very appropriate, where everybody had their theories, and I told everybody exactly what was going to happen. You'd think more people would listen and maybe pray. I said, it's Pilate, and he's bringing in to wash his hands.
Yes.
He's going to leave it to the people. The voice of the people is the voice of God. If they want Trump, they're going to get Trump. What was the first thing he did? Did his poll, voice of the people, voice, exactly word for word, as I said. And this happens again and again and again and again. And maybe if I didn't act like such a goofball, maybe people would listen more, but I'm uncomfortable sharing these things. I'm uncomfortable because I hope that's not true. Because you know what happens after? Who do you want? You want Jesus of Nazareth? You want Yahshua? Because people have a problem with Jesus because it comes from Zeus and how they twist everything. You want Yahshua? Or do you want Yahshua Barabbas? Who do you want? You want the revolutionary, the guy who's going to kill the thief? Or do you want the Prince of Peace? And people don't want that. They want somebody, let's put Jerusalem first. Make Israel great again. That's what they want. They don't want someone to say you have to love. You have to forget. So what do? They put that guy to death. We don't want to be reminded of how unholy we are. And this is why I've always been. But you want to know what happens? I work for WWE. They were getting blown out in the ratings. I come in. God has a blessing on me. They become so incredibly important and influential. Vince becomes a billionaire in my tenure there. 2 years. 2 years time. So it took 2.5 years I was there. 1999 to 2001, the time that everybody talks about. And it was just really, for 2000 and 2000, it was really just me and one other writer. And I wrote for a majority of the people there. All of them. I mean, Hunter, who's running the show, I was his primary writer. Undertaker, primary writer. It's like the little old me. By the way, they won't even acknowledge me. Doesn't matter. I can have 1 million subscribers or 2 million. I won't be acknowledged. The Christian Television Network, they know I'm here. They're watching my stuff. I love them. I feel really bad about what happened. They won't acknowledge me. And I was their writer. And when I was there, right, they were in like 300,000 homes. Then they were in 3 billion. They had a footprint. And they blew up and they become massive. I end up leaving because I was in New York and everything else. You know what ends up happening? Big scandal breaks. Next thing you know, right? A lot of these things happen. WWE. I left WWE. They lost half of the audience.
Because Grace left.
To this day, it's still, the ratings have never climbed to, half of the audience left with me. It's very strange. There's an Abrahamic blessing. I'll bless those that bless you, curse those that curse you. So I really feel bad for people because I've had a lot of people, I left that other job, where I loved my job. I was
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
was the number one salesman. I took such pride in my work and I loved helping people. And it was a great job because I could do my videos in the back alley on break, right? Or I could, and I could edit while I was there and I could help people and I have time and I could, it was like, I just loved the job so much. I was there for 10 years. They were jealous, I guess, of my numbers. They wanted my store. They were doing everything they can to force me out, make me uncomfortable. It was ridiculous. I was being but really God was saying, now it's time for you to do more videos. This is now, you can't rely on them. You have your two, Jacob, right? If I send this part of the family across first, I'll be safe because I'll still have this half. If I keep the mattress firm, John, right? I'll still be okay. How stupid is Jacob? How stupid is Jacob? But those people, all of them, 1, 2, 3, all these people that did, I told them, I said, you don't understand. I'm like really a man of God. I told them this, heads up in a company, like a VP of a company. I said, what you're doing is wrong. You know it's wrong. And I said, you will not be here much longer if it's wrong. He's gone. It's been a year. The other one, gone. The other one, stepped down. Now, I'm not taking any kind of pleasure in it, but I know that I can't get upset with people because God takes care of it. You got to forgive them, and pray for them. And I do, I do. Did hurt me though. I really liked that job. I really did. Isn't that silly? Being a mattress salesman. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, you're a success when you do something and
That you
you
love.
do it good. You're a success when you do something and you enjoy it and you do it well. Listen, I think that your story is it's indicative of a lot of us who have actually very similar paths. We love people. When we do sales, we do good at it because that's just what our shtick is. But I think there's a lot of us who lost jobs where we knew that we were just being persecuted just because.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I have situations like that. I have public situations that are exactly just like that.
Mm.
And it's so amazing that people would literally know that you're a good person. They can see that you're a good person, but they just keep going and going and going until they get you out.
And I'm going to tell you why. There's a story. Now, this is people are going to think that this is a little maybe far-fetched, but there's a story about how God wanted to deal with a certain king in a form of judgment. And so all the sons of God came before him and they all had these ideas. One of them was the spirit of deception, basically. Said, I will go down there and I will put the lie in the hearts of all of his advisors. So he says, good, go do it. And the judgment came because he listened to a bunch of liars who probably, were just liars, And, but so we're like, well, why would God do such a thing? People like, this is not the God that I know. It's once again, it's sometimes we need things to move us from one place to another. When a bird builds a nest, like say an eagle, and I'm not National Geographic or whatever, so I don't know if this is true, but for some reason I feel like I know this story. When the eagle builds the nest, he puts like stones and sticks and stuff in it so that when the chicks become big, their weight, the nest becomes so uncomfortable that they have to take flight. Hence why I am now a YouTuber full-time. And once again, making just more than I need. Everybody thinks that this is some great thing. They think that if I was really good, sometimes I wish I was better at monetizing things and bringing in. I have people that offer me all the time, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. But I just feel like because I talk about the things of God and I want to encourage people in their faith, I don't want people to think I'm a phony. I don't want people to think that I'm here. That's why I liked Mattress Firm, was because I liked the fact that I didn't have to rely on YouTube. Because people that have watched you for years, they won't even like, they won't. Because they're like, what does he need it for? He's got 1,000 likes on that video already. What does he need another one for? They won't share it because they're worried about what people will think. I get it all the time. I'll get an email from somebody hey, I'm just really sorry. I really want so bad to share your stuff. It's made such a difference in my life. And it's just, but they just wouldn't understand. I said, you're ashamed of me. You're ashamed of the thing that's helped you. And it's not me that you're ashamed of. It's the spirit that's in me that you're ashamed of. Because people don't want that in the world. And until people desire this, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not unhappy with my jaded, and speckled flock, because a lot of them are jaded. I'm not ashamed of the speckled flock that God has blessed me with. I'm speckled myself. I'm grateful to be where I am. And I just want to do the best that I can. And sometimes, the stuff that I talk about, it troubles me, because there are things that really concern me, but I'm like, am I just worrying too much? And I don't want to relay that. So I always try to temper my words with, this is just speculation. Just because.
Oh, I love how you do that.
It's because there are other people that, like, the Lord told me, and I'm like, I think the Lord tells me these things, but I'm going to sit back and we'll see what comes of things, and I got to tell you, I'm really, because right? What's the talk of what that thing that you type on? It's you bring it with you. It's portable. Open it up like this. We don't even need to say the word, right? You usually carry it in a little case, and you do computing on it. Little portable computer. That's in the story right now, right? Right now, here's weirder. In my dream that I had, that I talk about, how it was called the new Sussman, and of course, there's Sussman with the Clinton. Turns out Sussman is now attached to this. Like, what? It's weird, because you think of, like, that was just a weird dream that I had that I knew was important. So I documented it, and I haven't edited it. I don't touch it. I leave it there, and I keep going back to it, because I really feel like the next big thing is everything's going to be revealed. And the irony, I think it's going to be really soon too. Like 2023, I think is going to be like, I wouldn't doubt if something really earth shattering drops, and people may still bury their heads in the sand and not listen to it. But I think that's the next thing. And, that's, you would think that people maybe would say, well, maybe there is a God, because there aren't other people doing what I'm doing. That's for sure. People take themselves so seriously. There are people right now that told everybody he will win with a landslide, all of these prophets and pastors and everything else. And now you know what they're doing? Because they're saying, I told you he would win. They're waiting for him so they can say, when very few people were saying, hey, it's going to look like everything's gone. It's all a big, big show. It's all a big show. And it is a show. He betrayed him for 30 pence, right? For the silver coin. Remember Pence? Pence got the silver coin when he locked it in and betrayed him. Crazy. All this stuff is crazy. And you would think that I would have more faith. I do have a lot, but you would think that I wouldn't be so concerned with what's coming.
Well, I know for me, watching everything unfold has been very unique. As far as numbers went, I remember saying, he's going to win. And then I got a check in my gut after I said it, literally right after I said it. And then it was, when I get visions, they're like the pages of books. It's hard to describe it, but it's as if you're running your thumbs through the pages of books. When my visions hit, when I'm awake, they'll just do like that. And as soon as I said he will win, it did like that. And I saw how the whole thing was going to be manipulated. And I sat back and I said, I was actually being interviewed the day that I said it. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And as soon as everything started to unfold, it happened exactly the way the vision that I saw the vision.
Yeah.
And it was really weird, because my first gut was, oh yeah, he's definitely going to win. Well, maybe numerically he did, as far as the humans that put in what they wanted. But most assuredly, things had switched. And I believe that when you consider the fact that
has he really
everything
lost anything though?
is an act, it's a show. It's like a really big shoe.
Yeah.
Everything is a really big shoe that I see how we've all been pitted against one another
Right.
with one ideal and
Wrestling.
all being divided up by this one thing. I don't see it anymore as, the right or the left. I see it as a unit, and the units have departments, and they are assigned to each group of individuals and even those in between. And so they sort of start all these little rumpelstiltskins for us to get involved in, all these little rumbles for us to get in, so that a lot of stuff can slide by. With that said, to your point, I absolutely believe that there's going to be something huge because of all of the stops that they're throwing. They're throwing out, they're letting everybody come onto the playing field. They're pulling out all the cats. They're allowing people like the Kanyes to flip and flop. They're allowing him to come out and say one thing and then turn right around and say another thing. And then he gets back on Twitter and then they kick him off Twitter. He says positive things about Balenciaga. Then he goes, well, first he says negative. He doesn't agree with them. I have an article. And then you turn right around and here he is saying, hey, they have a right to say X. Then he loses his way again on Twitter. So all of this stuff is meant for us to look over there, look over there, look over there, because over yonder, it's some serious stuff going down. It is some serious. Meanwhile, we got CERN doing this thing, smashing at higher and higher numbers. Meanwhile, we got Fermi Lab out there doing their thing, and stuff that is actually affecting us that we don't even realize is going forward. And that's the reason why I say, oh yeah, it's going to be something big, and it's coming. And for those people who are really honestly just holding on to what they mama and them taught them, and they just hold it on to their sacred cow, and they want to tell everybody that the visions that they're getting and the way that the Father is showing them certain things is wrong, I hope for your sake, boo-boo, you're right. So let me ask you this. When you were, because I see a lot of people in the chat, and I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to ask you. Let me ask you this, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
When I was growing up, my family called me Tawana because that's my middle name.
Okay. Oh,
is your name, Jacob?
You want to know if Israel is my last name?
No, I want to know. I want to know when.
Yeah. So I knew
because here's the deal. What I understand is that as we elevate and as the Father,
right,
as the Father elevates within us and He brings down information to us, He will change our name.
Yeah, no, my name
will give us a new name. So I want you to tell us about the matriculation.
Yeah, it's ironic because I can use the story of Jacob from Scripture for my story because it's identical, which is almost really. First of all, I always knew the name and always loved the character because of wrestling. You know, even from a young child, I knew when. You know, you got the first name to begin with. So it's like the last name. First of all, my last name would have been McGlynn. My father I never met, but I was because I'm half Irish, half Italian. But my mom allowed my stepfather. He ended up adopting me, so I took on that name. Which, by the way, that name is it's ironic. It means like to be stuck in the mud and like to be in the mire. It's very interesting last name. But anyway, that's not my last name, right? That's not my last name. The first one, McGlynn, meant like living glen or like a beautiful field. But that also isn't who I am. My mother had a different name for me when I was born, but she named me after my grandfather to begin with, which was interesting. So all of a sudden, so here I'm like given this first name, and it's already appropriate. It's Jacob. It makes it easy, right? It's easy to go from Jacob to Israel. But it wasn't until, in the story of the Bible, Jacob, his last name wasn't Israel. It's not like his name is Jacob. Israel was probably something else.
Right.
But when he went to work for Laban, so when he went to work for God, he went to sleep on the stone, and he has this vision where he ends up wrestling. The story goes that he wrestles a man, really, but in translations, it's an angel, which also could be he wrestles himself, which was a big. He was like running from his homeland, And ironically, he went to a place that was like everything just very strange how I went to Texas exactly at the point in my life where Jacob went. And I went to a place that was exactly like it meant the same thing that where Bethel is and that area, Luz, which is, I wish I had all my notes in front of me because all the names I forget.
No, take your time.
But the story is almost identical. When I was traveling and I drove across, I didn't know if this was going to make any sense. I just drove. I'm going to go work for this Christian network. I mean, I've never done that before. It's just weird. And I was on my own, and my wife at the time, she ended up leaving. We have a good relationship now. She's in California. I raised my kids. It just, it is what it is. She didn't want to be married, and she left. So, I mean, it happens. I was young, and thankfully everything works out exactly the way it should. But it was very strange. Jacob had two wives too, and he had two families, and I have two families as well because we have the blended family now. Because I inherited Anthony, who's my stepson, but he's really my son because I raised him. We both have custody, and now we have Ethan. So, as I'm going over there, I end up stopping at this church. And I was in deep prayer. I was like, Lord, you got to tell me I'm making the right. I don't know. It's like, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I've already had these weird supernatural experiences. And I already had God working in my life. It was obvious. World Wrestling, my own TV show. And now, of course, head writer of the largest Christian network in the world. Of course, at the time they weren't. Now they are. They were the fastest growing when I got there. And that's where I took the name. I was inspired to take the name. Just like when he went to work, he wrestled an angel. Now, ironically, the last job that I did in wrestling and TV, I got involved in a match. True story. I was playing Dr. James Cobb, J. Cobb, and I was like a therapist, and I was helping the owner of the the federation at the time to, I was like helping him to be better because he was crazy. And I got involved in a match, and I ended up choking out a wrestler named Angel, which didn't strike me as odd until I was on the plane. I said, wow, I literally wrestle an angel now. And the irony is his hamstring went, so he walked away with a limp this time. And I thought that's significant. So here it's like I was already calling myself Jacob Israel. I started my website, long time ago. I was on YouTube in 2008. I was inspired. One day, everybody would know me as Jacob Israel. Your name will no longer be Jacob so-and-so. Your name now will be Jacob Israel. Same story. Jacob was a shepherd. He worked for a big, like very well-to-do place that made money off of the flock. I was a television writer that worked for a place that was big. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been will be again. There's a great passage that sometimes I wonder, right? Because my wife will say to me, do you really think that you're the Jacob Israel? I say, I don't know. It would be cool if I was, though. But there is a scripture that talks about the judgment, that in the end, everyone that has been will come back for the great judgment. They may not know it. You may be Ruth. You don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like that would be the idea where he said, Sodom, was Sodom or Nineveh? No, Nineveh, the people in Nineveh will rise up. They will rise up with this generation in the judgment, and they will condemn it because a greater than Jonah is here, right? The queen of the south, the queen of Sheba, will rise up with this generation. Scriptures say that in the end, everybody's here. See, everybody's waiting for a judgment after you die. Why is it that everybody is thinking, oh yeah, if I could just get through this, I'll be good? No. If
Because they think they're going to skate.
Well, that's the thing. You're not, because God is a perfecter of all things. If he says, I'm going to finish something in victory, God finishes it in victory. So far in my life, I've said ridiculous things. You're going to be in a movie that I write. And then he is. I'm going to be the head writer for World Wrestling. And then I am. I'm going to be given my own, sports entertainment show. And I did. I'm going to be the head writer for the largest Christian network in the world. And I was. I'm going to have a best-selling novel, which, by the way, the first time it went out, I had a different cover and everything else, and barely sold anything. It was with a Christian publishing company. The reason why it was re-released is because that Christian publishing company, they were stealing from everybody. They're in jail now. And that publishing company, why? Because what happened? When I'll bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. So now I have a Gateway came in, self-published. And if you remember correctly, I did a show on the air where I held it up and I prayed. People didn't know this. I even put it on the cover saying, Lord, that they would know that you sent me. Let it be a bestseller on Amazon. It was a bestseller on Amazon for new releases. It's not a bestseller now. I wish it was. We have like 1,000. It's an amazing novel. This, by the way, is why I think my YouTube channel, it's about this. My life, I think this is it. I think it is. I think that this work right here, I think that this is important. Because there's more. Here you start reading it. Here, this is where you end. This is where we are now, everybody. But this is where we're going to be. And if you look at the cover, the book is the cover, right? And it's, it comes at a cost. If you read the novel, you'll find out about the author. But ironically, when I wrote this, and I have it in, 2008, then in 2000, I have today's date actually in the book. And I entered it in as evidence, which is pretty cool. Let me see if I can find it right here. I don't know if you can see this. See how it says entered in as evidence? 9/11/2021, defendant intercepted communication. Now it looks like it's a legal thing, but really it's more of a, there's a layers to this story. There's more to the story. So this was to be proof of 2022. How about them apples? And there's a scene in here when the book becomes a very, very big, the idea is that the book becomes a big time bestseller. Then it becomes like a movie. And then, of course, everybody then finds all of the treasure trove of essays that Thomas James has written. And then, of course, because of the system and the way the world is, it gets very interesting. And they're not too thrilled about him. So I think that it's an important novel and it's a great story. And I'm a pretty good writer. So, and that's my website, by the way.
There you go. And down below, right here on the ticker tape, that's the website. So for more information and to support Jacob's work, please go to the website. You can purchase the books and you can get other great stuff while you're there.
Subscribe to me on YouTube.
It's so important for us to support one another's work. Listen, if you don't have, X, Y, or Z, then consider doing the calling ebook. It's a PDF, $5 right there. You can do that. We have to support the work of those that we know are doing the work of the Father. We really honestly do, because let's see this, I tell you, he made a good point earlier, where if we're talking about something crazy or corny, you find people just hand over fist throwing money. I mean, they super chat. I've said on some panels that I have been a part of, and I'm listening to a lot of stuff, and these cats are giving all these large numbers for stuff that has no edification to your soul, to the things that don't edify your spirit, that don't edify anything good. Here's an opportunity for you to just help yourself. It doesn't, listen, a workman, letter A, is worthy of his hire. So that's just the first piece of it. That's just where I'm coming from. But I will say this, when you invest to those who are in this work that we do, you honestly don't even realize what it does for you. And I'm not telling nobody to do anything. I'm just letting you hear my perspective on giving and helping to support the work of those who are literally in the trenches. The easiest thing to do is to sit up behind a keyboard. I do it. I'm guilty sometimes where I'll give my opinion on a post or something like that. But it's the easiest thing to tell somebody how they should do something and what they should do and what they do, how wrong they are. It's easy to be a keyboard cowboy, but it is hard work to produce and to write and to edit and to then render all and put all the pieces together to the type of work that Jacob Israel does. And so from the bottom of my heart, because he is a humble man who's not going to toot his own horn, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to ask that you guys would please support him. I remember one time I supported him And I got I got a message, personal message from him, thanking me by name. I mean, I'm not saying that he has the time to do that now, but this was a few years ago. And
I still reach out to like everybody. I get emails. People can email me. I'm not in the chat asking for, sometimes scammers will come in and ask for things. I don't ask for anything, but if people email, like my email's available and I hope that everybody, this is the main thing. My YouTube is the big thing. If you can go to Jacob Israel on YouTube, the best thing you can do, watch videos and share them.
down below in the
Like,
description.
it's very,
Down below
that's
in the
it.
description. Grab
Yeah.
it. Share it.
It's so
Share
easy,
it.
So
So I wanna switch reels a little bit, and I want to ask you how I see some of the strength that you've used to, get rid of bad things in your life. And I think that the way that you get rid of the bad situations and the bad memories of things is you just continue to walk in love. That's
Yeah.
what it appears to. I
Right.
want to deal with the power, because you've you told us today and exemplified some of the traits of a person who really does take control. Tell us about the mind. You've been able to bring things in because as a man thinketh, so is he. Now, here's the
Mhm.
funny part, and I want to put this out here before I share and let you share. A lot of times people will say, well, that's type of new age talk. That's the kind of new age conversation.
What sounds
Those
new
kind of
age?
conversations aren't of God. Oh, don't
Oh,
try to name it and claim it. Or they may say,
right.
oh, no, your mind, you're not supposed to use your mind like this or that. But that's not. No, what you're doing is you're using a cop out, because he said, as a man thinketh, so is he. Let me ask you, talk to us about the power of our soulish realm. Talk to
Yeah.
us about that, because somebody needs that.
So here's the thing. A lot of people think in scripture where Jesus said, you're going to rule and reign with me in the heavens, right? We'll rule and reign with me in the heavens. Okay. Well, first of all, let's for a second not think of it as a movie. Let's think of it as the scriptures say that as the heavens are above the earth, so are God's ways above ignorant man's. For God loved the earth, the world, the cosmos so much that he gave his only son. The earth is a picture of we'll say our identity, or our intellectual idea of who we are, or ego. And in scripture, he calls it, by the way, the heathen too, sometimes. That man's ways are the heathenistic ways. But the heavens are above man's ways. So as the heavens are above the earth, so are God's ways above man's. I say all this for a reason. We're the temple of God. People think that the temple of God is a literal building you go into. No. Scriptures say that we're the temple of God. No, you're not, that you're the temple of God. The kingdom of heaven, scripture says, is Jesus said, it's not here or there. They can't say, look over here or look over there, for behold, the kingdom of heaven is within you, in your midst. Point to your temples. Between your temples is your mind, your brain. The heavens are within you. Okay? The heavens are God's thoughts. They're above man's thoughts. As the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above yours. This is why, as a man thinks in his heart, so he becomes, is so important, because there's a marriage that takes place. Now, so when Christ says that you're going to rule and reign with me, it doesn't mean you're going to be given like a throne and a nice crown and be like, go get them, bring me the grapes. That's not what he means. Heavenly places are the thoughts that are taking place in our heads. This is how Satan was cast from the higher thinking into the lower nature. Ruling and reigning with Christ is a thought will come to our head. That son of a gun, we should do something about that. If you listen to that thought, that's a temptation. And the wages of sin is death, because if temptation is brought forward, it brings you into sin. And if it brings you into sin, it brings you into death. And death just simply means to be carnally minded. to be ignorant. There's ignorant suffering when you listen to the lowest form of thinking, that fight or flight, that reptilian brain from the brainstem, the reptile, the snake, the devil, the liar. If you listen to the liar and you take hold of that temptation, you're going to end up in Sheol, in hell. There's a scripture that says the lips of the strange woman are like a honeycomb, but if you kiss it and you go into it, you end up in hell. If you're thinking the worst thoughts and you follow after the worst thoughts, you will suffer. Christ comes, and that word come, erchomai in Greek, means to be revealed, to be manifested. It's kind of like if I had my, hood over my face and you couldn't see me. And it was like, I have come again. Because I was always here. Christ is always here in our midst. He has to rise again until the day star rises in your heart. So when Christ comes, Christ in Scripture is the power and the wisdom of God. When the power and the wisdom of God is love. When the power and the wisdom of love is ruling in your heart, that's when the kingdom of God has come upon you. That's the time where you are ruling and reigning with Christ. And how do you do it? When you hear that tempting thought, you say, "No, devil," and you cast that thought away. It's not true. I've been married to them for 25 years. They love me. It's not true. And then I act upon what I know to be true. Maybe I need to show them more attention because they do love me, and maybe they're acting out because I'm not giving them what I need. It's not that they hate me and now I should leave them. See, this story that we're told, this narrative, it's a deceptive one, but the voice of God is always there waiting if you're patient. If you listen to that fight or flight, the very first thing that's brought to your attention, you're going to attack me. I get attacked all the time. People say so the first thought that they come to. Meanwhile, the thing that I'm going to share is probably the one thing that they needed to hear. But that ego, that enemy, the antichrist spirit that John says is already everywhere, the antichrist, power and wisdom of God, the opposite of that, it wants to exist. It doesn't want to be ruled. It wants to be God. So to rule and reign with Christ simply means to take your thoughts captive, to understand that you have the power to cast out devils, to cast out demons. That's what a demon is. Let me put it in terms you understand. It is a spirit. Jesus said, "My words are spirit and they are truth." Words are spoken thought. A spirit is a thought. There are devilish spirits, which are lies, because the devil is the father of some lies. No. The father of a couple of lies. No. The devil is the father of all lies. There is no truth in the devil. The devil was a murderer from the beginning. Right? So, if the devil is all that, then a demon would be a lie. It would be a creation, a father of all lies. I have conceived a lie. I put that lie in you. And Christ says, nope. That's ruling and reigning with Christ. And then understanding, as I'm in the world, okay, so as I'm in the Father, the Father's in me. We're in you. This is a hard thing for people to wrap their minds around. Jesus said, I have to go away because everybody was putting their faith in him. That's a problem because Jesus also said, I'm the light of the world. So are you. So are you. Don't hide that light under a bushel. But everybody wants to worship you. I have to go away. But if I go away, the Holy Spirit will come upon you. You'll understand that I've always been with you. I'm always with you. This is God's Spirit. I'm always with you. Though you can't see me, I'm always with you. Though you can't hear me, I'm always with you. So it's very simple for us to understand our power. It's a choice. You choose not to think the worst. You choose to do what's hard. Like this morning, Ethan, who I love, my buddy, he's, his ears finally, he's starting to hear again. He had COVID and he beat it, the second time, no big deal. And no, he didn't get any of those stuffs before people ask. But his ears got really messed up, really bad, right? Ruptured eardrums and everything else. He can't hear. It was devastating for us to be, he was constantly, couldn't hear. It's getting better. He's getting better. But this morning, he's in his, he's not ill anymore. He's, his hearing may take months to really get back to where it's normal, but he's okay. He comes in, he's like, will you help me study, Dad? And I'm like, I have so much stuff going on. I already made him breakfast. I was making him lunch. I was trying to get my breakfast going and my shake going so I can go to the gym so I could write. And that's what I do when I go to the gym. I work and then I can get back here for you. And he asked me, and that first thought is like, you don't have time for this. You don't have time for this. Oh, you kidding me? Really? So what I did was I said, all right, Christ, take over. Course, buddy. Give me the cards. Didn't want to do it. Had the cards in my hand. Wasn't happy about it. But I knew he was so happy to study with me. And he's such a good student because his mom's a teacher and she's such a great teacher. So I'm asking him all these questions. And then by the second, third card, all of a sudden, I was like, how'd you get that one right? How'd you get that one right? So what the liar told me, you don't want to have a valuable, meaningful exchange with your child that you love, supposedly this morning. You want to go back to doing what you're doing. You won't have enough time. And I said, no, devil, because I know that's not true. It's just what I was being presented in the moment, and I thought it was me. That's the thing. We need to understand that these thoughts that we have to discern between them. That says you need to test the spirits to see whether they be of God. And it's not like you go to a person and say, can you quote John 3:16? You're a devil. No, testing the spirits is test those thoughts. Am I really going to blow it if I help them study for 5 minutes? See what I mean? So we all have this power. You could turn your life around. You could do anything you want, anything you want. People don't believe that's power. They make excuses as to why it's not. So their faith becomes a reality. As a man thinketh in his heart, as a person thinketh in his heart, so he is. I'm Jacob Israel. And so I am, right? I'm going to have this. And so it is. But I could also say, I have a terrible relationship. And so it will be. My kids are never going to do anything good in their life. And so it will be. You have to choose. The power of creation was given to us. He gave Adam dominion over everything. It's all yours. Tend to it. And an enemy has come in and done everything it can to box us and keep us small. So I do think Elon watches my show because I'm not small.
I'm sure he does.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not small. If I was to look at myself as a man, an old, weak, prone to worry and I used to cut myself. I used to drink really heavy. I wasn't, I didn't do terrible things, but I was really a miserable person. They had me on a lot of medicine years ago. Oh, you're this, you're that. You have post-traumatic stress disorder. You have this thing and you have that thing. And I believed them until I didn't. And I said, hang on a second. That's not true. Hang on a second. I'm not having a breakdown. True story. On the ground. Crying. Couldn't stop crying. And it was like, what are you? Will you stop? Will you grow up? I have a purpose for you. And you're called Jacob Israel and you're crying on the floor like a baby. Get up. Wash your face. You choose. Choose a better narrative. That's what I say. So yeah, the power and the wisdom of God sets you free. I've been set free and I continue to. It's a process. Every day we got to work at it. Every day we got to be on our guard because our adversary, the devil, is like a roaring lion seeking whom it may devour. Resist that devil, it will flee. May not flee right away, right? You may have another temptation because guess what? This is how the enemy works. If I can't press your buttons by having somebody say this to you, I'll get you to forgive him. Okay, good. I'm going to go even deeper. And then that thought will be like, you see, you shouldn't have forgiven him. That's how it works. But devil, right?
Mhm.
Christ died for me. And now, right? The two of us together. How can, if God is for me, who can be against me?
Ooh, that makes you really, you sort of tremble in the fact that he's so great that he would actually, that scripture, who am I that he would even, and I'm paraphrasing, that he would even think of me at all. Who am I? Just little old me, which makes you sort of feel you're automatically in a humbled state because it's him and it's little old me.
Right.
I want to ask you something. I want to talk to you about our important components in our life. I want to talk about the Dan.
Just so you know, I
want to talk about Dan when you can.
I will. I absolutely will. And that's why I have to leave shortly, like 15 minutes tops, because I have to get everything ready because we got a lot of stuff. Ethan's coming home and all that. My wife, I met her, true story, and told her on our first real date, I'm going to marry you in 6 months. True story. Married her in 6 months. We eloped. $35. It was great. I knew when I met her that there's something I just knew. And she's awesome. We had a blended family, and she had a past where like people had abandoned her and, let's just say family members, here's this Christian guy and everything else. It wasn't like the fact that we eloped our relationship started off, it was very hard because of external forces, not because of us, because of external stuff. Now everything's obviously so much better, but she is, oh God, she's my everything. She's my everything. She's like my gift, my greatest gift. She's my judge. Her name means God is my judge. She's my judge. She studied with Ethan this morning was because yesterday, because I like to cook. Jacob loves to cook. He's a tent dweller. He dwells in tents. He likes to make the stew, right? I like cleaning and I like taking care of people. And I do most of everything. I just like it. I'm a homebody. And, because I was raised that way. I was like a latchkey kid and I had to clean and all that stuff. And so it's kind of formed me into who I am. But last night when I was finishing up, she was going to go upstairs and I miss her. I like hanging out with her. I'm like, you're going to leave me? I said, I just made this great dinner and, and she helped, by the way, she helps. Not like she doesn't do stuff. And I said, now I'm cleaning. She goes, I'm going to help Ethan study. You feel good when he comes home with 100, right? And I said, you're right. I do. And I said, wow, I'm sorry. Like literally, that's how Danielle is. She's very, she's very smart, very cut and dry. And she makes me laugh. And everything that I thought I needed, she won't give me. Like I thought we needed to have this, and I thought we need not like have things, but like we needed to do this together. Like we need to work out all the time. Like I don't want you working out at your own gym. But every single thing that we've done in our relationship has been exactly ordained by God. And I'm a truly happy man, happily married and lucky and scared to death of losing her, like her passing away, scared to death of this. This is like something that occupies my time. She's amazing. She's an amazing mom. She's an amazing stepmom. She's an incredible teacher. She worries too much. She focuses on stuff very much. She's very bright. I think that she's a little bit of a genius, and she's an incredible artist. I continue to ask her to, paint and do stuff. She's an incredible artist. I didn't even know this until, the three of them, I stood there and they were drawing who could draw my nose better because I've kind of a big nose. So my wife is my wife. And you know why? Because I decided many, many years ago after we had a horrible, horrible fight where you think that it would break you. You think that that's it. That would be the worst thing ever. She did the worst thing ever to me. I did the worst thing ever to her. Think about that level, right? And it wasn't even that level, but in my head it was, right? And in her head it was. And yet we're like, because of that, we are so much more strong today. We never gave up on each other, So that's why, like, when my thing is, I always felt I was never loved. You don't love me. I never felt loved. Never really felt loved by anybody. So it was hard for me to believe that she loved me. I have to remind myself sometimes when she'll say something and they'll be like, look at that. She doesn't love you. You just take care of everything. You just do everything. That thought comes in, liar. It's not true. She's with me. And how do I know she loves me? Because of all the crap at the beginning of our relationship, because we're still together today. And that's why I work harder at being kinder to her and better to her. And I'm grateful. And I'm glad that I finally figured it out, because not a lot of people are happily married,
Jacob,
Danielle.
I want to tell you how awesome it has been talking to you. I know that you are a man that loves your family. You love the people that you are here to serve. And you're a very humble man. And I keep using that word. I use that word for you. Mostly all the people over the past couple of weeks that's been coming through have all been people that were humbled, and humble.
That's why.
Right?
That's why.
And so I want to tell you, thank you. I want you to let your wife know that I appreciate her for you guys in your union. And let me say this, because as a woman who talks to women, it is so important for us to understand that our husbands can truly and honestly, their hearts can rest in us safely when we are that woman that is there for him and helps him with the foundational things, his mind being at rest, his heart. And so I want you to tell her thank you for taking care of my brother, Jacob. Come back and see us real soon. You come back?
Yeah, you're kidding me.
I want us to all be on a panel. I'd love to have us all together. And by us, I mean, willing witness, maybe even, I'd love to have Roy a part of that.
Okay.
I'd love to have maybe even Mark Hugel. I'd love to have a nice powerhouse for all of us to just sit down and chat and, just have a conversation, because there are so many components that make us up in this sector. But I really believe that once we all get together, people will be able to really understand more, really who we are, what we are not.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I love you all. God bless everybody.
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
You guys, make sure that you go right on over there to the website. The website is there. Please go. Please support Jacob's work. Please go to his YouTube channel, subscribe, like it, share it. Don't be ashamed to share the things that has helped you. If you go to his channel and you find that there's information there that has helped free you from something that you've been looking for or asking about, please make sure that you share it. Give it to somebody else, because you never know what others are going through. And the one thing about it is that you have gifts and talents. And sometimes you may feel something, you may think something, but you may think, no, I don't want to bother that person with this video or this book or this song or whatever. But really what you're doing is you're tapping into those around you and you're picking up what they need. And because you can be empathetic to what they're going through, that's why you're getting the messages to help them. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you all for coming in, for being respectful as much as you could. We had to change some of the algorithm there for a second to try to balance out some of the comments that you're always going to get when you have a lot of different, comments from people or topics. But we had to switch up just a little bit so that we could balance things out. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us while we had to do that. My name is Felicia Lockhart, right? This channel is Headlines with a Voice. And you, well, you are the best chat on the planet. The commenters are the best on the planet. And I want to thank you. And as I always say, at the end of any Felicia Lockhart Group publication, man shall not live by bread alone. but by every single word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High. You guys take care of yourselves, and then I want you to take care of somebody else. And then after that, I want you to reach around, take care of them, and then I want you to take care of you until I see you again. Will you do that? You take care, and you continue to be blessed. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye.
To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day.